Tigers schedule a future home and home football series, but could the venue change? We've got the answers. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. LSU and SMU jointly announced on Monday that the Tigers and the Mustangs will play a future home and home series in 2028 and 2029. I got some thoughts on that. Plus, had an opportunity to speak with LSU Executive Deputy AD Verge Ausberry, who, of course, for many years has been in charge of football scheduling, to fill in some of the blanks and the questions that I had, and I know many of you had as well, about this series for 2028 and 2029. So we'll get to that also. Ben McDonald and David Dellucci, both of ESPN and the SEC Network, stop by today's show. And LSU has announced its Hall of Fame class for 2025, its athletics Hall of Fame class for 2025. So we'll get to that. Very much looking forward to it. Let's start with this. So LSU and SMU will play a future series in 2028 and 2029. There's a few things worth mentioning here. Of course, in 2025, in 2026, LSU will play a home and home with Clemson. 25, of course, LSU opens at Clemson. 26, Clemson makes the return trip. In 2027, the only non-conference game on the slate so far is a game against UTSA. Then in 2028, it's the SMU game. In 2029, another game against SMU. 2029, you've got Rice, McNeese, and Arizona State on the schedule for 2029. And then, of course, in 2030, you've got the return trip when LSU will play at Arizona State in 2030. So it was interesting because I had a chance to visit with Verge Ausberry, LSU Senior Associate AD in charge of scheduling. And there's just so much uncertainty right now in scheduling because you don't know what is going to happen with the SEC future schedule. For example, right now, it's an 8-game league schedule. Well, a week ago, you might have seen the story where there was a report that ESPN is willing to renegotiate the contract with the SEC if they go to a 9th league game. That's very important sticking point. I don't want to lose you on this, but follow me, okay? So the way that these TV deals work is that the league sells its TV rights collectively as the conference to the network. So in this case, ESPN. Well, that includes a certain amount of inventory, a certain amount of games. Well, if the SEC goes to 9 league games, well, now you're giving ESPN a whole nother weekend of conference games. So that's clearly increasing the value of the package. Well, the SEC isn't going to go to 9 league games until 2 things happen. And by the way, this is something Greg Sankey has said pretty much on the record. Number one, they need ESPN or their TV partner to negotiate in good faith. Basically say, if we're going to give you this inventory, you got to pay us more. That's number one. And ESPN now is saying, okay. And then number 2 is if you go to 9 league games, you are guaranteeing half of your league an extra loss, which in the playoff era could be devastating. So what you had to see was an expanded playoff and probably assurances for the SEC that you're going to get a certain number of teams in the playoff. So with what Ross Dellinger reported a week ago, if we move to a 16-team college football playoff, the SEC would be guaranteed 4 spots. Okay, if you're guaranteed 4 spots, now you can go to 9 league games because it's going to increase your revenue and it's not going to hurt you saddling half your league with another loss. Just think of it. You got 16 teams, you play another game, half your team is going to lose another game. Half your league is going to lose another game. So you have to be very measured in the way that you're scheduling right now because let's say in 2 years that changes for the SEC or in a year Well, you don't want to go saddle yourself with multiple Power 5 non-conference games or things that will have to change by the time it gets here. Then you're finding you're breaking contracts, maybe paying buyout. So you really are taking it year to year. So a couple of things, though, about these games, the home and home with SMU. What is of note with the home games with SMU is that LSU, the first game in 28 will be in Baton Rouge. The return trip in 2029 will be in Dallas. And it's a home and home. But I asked Verge Ausberry, could this game be played at Jerry World? Keep in mind, Gerald Ford Stadium on the campus of SMU holds about 32,000 people. That's not nearly enough for LSU to make the trip. So could they move this game to Arlington and play it in Jerry World?
We talked to the athletic director about that, and there's a possibility that game could be in Jerry's World. We don't want to talk about that too early, but that's something we left open in the contract where that game could be. Their stadium was 40,000-seat stadium. So we understand, both of us understand that could be a marquee game in Dallas, and if it presents itself, we would like to play a game in Jerry's World.
How does the revenue get split on that, Verge, when you go play a true road game?
That's what we have to determine. Because right now we have it split as a home and home. I think we left it in the contract when it gets to that time. We'll look at the revenue, how much we can generate, ticket sales, and those type of things to make a difference in payment.
But it is, remember, SMU's home game. So, I asked Verge as well that, for example, the game that LSU played this past season in Vegas against USC, LSU got a $5 million check. And that's the beauty of the neutral site games. You show up and you're just collecting a check. You don't have to put on a home game, which, of course, the home game is going to net you more revenue, but the road game, the true road game, is going to be a lesser, where you just get a payout. Like how for example, when SMU comes to Baton Rouge, Verge disclosed LSU is going to pay SMU $750,000 for that game. Well, when LSU makes the return trip, maybe they get a little bit more than that to make that trip. I don't know, but it's still not going to be nearly as much as a home game or as a neutral site game. So you do have the financial disadvantage in playing that true road game. But if you're going to play it, you might as well play it in an 80,000-seat stadium like Jerry World, where you have more tickets, you can sell more tickets, you can negotiate a better deal, and you can make more money in addition to going to play that game on the road in Dallas. There's the obvious benefit as well of playing in Texas. LSU recruits Houston and Dallas and the state of Texas so much. So when they can go play in Texas, they want to. So with SMU being in the ACC, this satisfies your Power 5 requirement. You get to play in the state of Texas. You get the home game first, and then the road game may not actually be on campus. It may end up being in Jerry World, but that's something worth filing away, and we'll see if it does, in fact, play out that way. A couple of other things. This will be week 1. And remember, SMU, while maybe we don't think historically of as a great program, they're now in a Power 4 league, and they did just make the college football playoff. And that is a cash-rich school and athletic department with billionaire boosters that are willing to spend. And so when you look ahead to 2028, 2029, you're talking about 3 more seasons of investment in the roster and program and facilities. How much better might SMU be in 3 years than they are even right now? Maybe they're not, but it stands to reason that you keep having the opportunity in Power 5 to recruit against Power 5 schools with those types of resources in a revenue share era. SMU is going to continue to improve. So that could be interesting. But competitively, I asked Verge, what about, because this game is going to be in week 1. The dates are set. So I asked him, did you consider playing maybe a layup week 1 and then scheduling SMU in week 2 to kind of have your tune-up game? And here's what he said.
We look at everything right now, Matt, and week 0 games are in play also. We hadn't discussed that in the past, but in the future with the new scheduling formats and what's coming out, we might do a week 0 game every once in a while. So we have everything on the table right now, and that's what we're pretty much doing, just trying to focus on how this thing is going to look here in the future, how the scheduling is going to look, and how the changes are going to take place. So we'll be prepared for it. We want to give our team, as you know, LSU the biggest advantage going into these type of games.
I find that really interesting as well, because I didn't even bring up week 0. Now, I did ask him to clarify, and something that Verge mentioned in clarifying about week 0 is that you can play week 0 under 2 conditions. Either if your opponent plays Hawaii on the road, or if they play an international game. And I did ask for clarification. It's not that they have to play Hawaii the next week. It's if Hawaii's on the schedule at any point in the year. So effectively, go look at Hawaii's schedule for whatever year, and any team that Hawaii plays, you can play that team in a week 0 game, or any team that plays in international games. So, for example, past couple of seasons, we've seen teams open up in Ireland. Well, they would have the opportunity to play a week 0 game against those teams either. So just something to file away that LSU's not opposed. And I think that's very self-aware to realize, listen, you've lost 5 straight openers. You've played really tough marquee teams. If there's a benefit to having your tune-up game to get the kinks out in a week 0 game before you go play the marquee game, then you do it. Like, I certainly wish LSU had a tune-up this year before, especially with so many new players, before they had to go play at Clemson in a true road game. Not going to get that opportunity. So a big-time challenge. We'll see if that does change. And there's one other thing that I was interested in with Verge. By the way, this interview is on my radio show, After Further Review. If you want, you can listen to the entire interview. Go to YouTube or podcast, search After Further Review. You'll see it there. But I asked Verge if in making these decisions about home and home or the neutral site games, are they considering the revenue share era of college football? Because right now, I mean, football is funding the entire athletic department, and with revenue share, schools are looking for, athletic departments are looking for more ways to raise revenue. So is that what you're thinking at all in, or did that come into the thinking at all playing this series?
No, not really. Not because of that. This year is what's best for our team and the team we have coming back, and, you know, how we can get ourselves into preparation for the playoffs. We don't look at it as the rev sharing part of it. That's not part of it, but you know, we would like to play the neutral site games. It's a big payout, but like our fan base, they want to see the home and homes also. So I said this many times, Matt, before. We're going to play neutral site. We're going to play home and homes when it's smart for us to do it. And we have to make sure that we get in on the right years. And if you go to a 9-game schedule, that really changes it up a little bit. So you have to be very, very careful how you schedule those things. That's why, Matt, we've slowed down a lot on our process and how we do this future scheduling, because we don't know what we're going to get yet. But as soon as we know those type of things and get direction, all of us will be able to schedule and go out with future schedules in a better way.
Yeah, they used to schedule in times a decade out. You just don't see it anymore because you don't know what the format is going to be. And so you don't want to disadvantage your program by scheduling too far in advance and then having potentially to break that contract. So it was interesting, though. The Verge kind of disclosed that they're not really considering revenue share when they do this, which I find interesting because revenue share means everything competitively moving forward in this college football landscape. So I would think you're certainly considering it when you're talking about your football schedule, but apparently something that was not at the center of this decision. As this develops, we'll certainly tell you more. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I'll tell you, Game 4 between the Celtics and the Knicks on Monday night. You better believe I was in on that action. A double winner, had the Knicks plus 5.5 and had the over in the game. It is so easy. So make sure that you are locked in there. And how could you spend that $200 bonus in bets? Adds to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits. So check it out. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Baseball Tigers took 2 out of 3 over the weekend against Arkansas, and on Monday, for their efforts, LSU was rewarded by both Baseball America and D1 Baseball. LSU, the new #1 team in the country. Now, that doesn't really amount to a hill of beans because being ranked #1 in the polls doesn't do you a lick of good. What's more important is your resume and certainly your RPI and things of that nature. And while LSU is #1 in the polls, they are number 7 in the RPI. Even after losing 2 out of 3 in Baton Rouge, Arkansas still number 5 in the RPI. So here's the top 10 of the RPI, and it is littered with SEC schools. Georgia, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas, Arkansas. Your top 5 all SEC schools. Number 6 is Oregon State. Then LSU, Alabama, 7-8, followed by Florida State and UCLA, 9 and 10. So your top 5 all from the SEC, LSU and Bama also. So 7 of the top 8 teams in the RPI are all from the Southeastern Conference. But LSU right now ranked number 1 in the country with 1 weekend to go as they hit the road against South Carolina. Every Monday, I have a chance to visit with David Dellucci, of course, former Ole Miss great, Baton Rouge native, and currently on the SEC Network, who does an amazing job and hosts the Rally Cap show on Sunday nights, if you're not familiar. And I asked Luch for his one big takeaway. Left it wide open, open-ended. His one big takeaway from the LSU-Arkansas series.
LSU's offense stepped up. I mean, that was the big question. You know, they've got great efforts from Game 1 starter Cade Anderson, Game 2 starter Ianson, and question mark was going to be after the weekend that Arkansas had, which showed that their pitching staff was really solid. Would LSU's offense step up and be able to score runs? And they did. And it came from a cast of players that, once again, I can't say enough positives about how Jay Johnson can get guys that are not in everyday roles, whatever you want to call them, platoon players, utility players, whatever. But when they get into the game, they produce, man. And you've got a platoon now of catchers that are also hitting the ball out of the ballpark and driving in runs. So pitching looked great, offense looked fantastic, and this is where you into the last series of the season.
You know, it is interesting that Luch started there with the offense, but he's right. LSU scored 13 runs this weekend in the 3 games. I'm sorry. LSU scored 13 runs in 7 innings on Saturday in Game 2. They scored 7 runs total the week before against Texas A&M. So it is it was a much needed offensive breakout. Even in Game 3, when the Tigers lost and scoring 5 runs, or 4 runs, excuse me, it was still 5 runs. So it was still in that series loss. The game, I'm sorry, it was 7-4 was the final in Game 3. Forgive me. Even in scoring 4 runs, they put up 10 hits. So they still were able to spray the ball. It just, the timely hit and the crooked number is kind of what evaded you right there. Now, the offense is something that was certainly encouraging. The thing that was not encouraging or discouraging, I might say, were the amount of walks. 9 walks alone in Game 3. You had a handful of walks in the 7th inning of Game 2 as you were trying to close out the run rule victory. You ended up walking the bases loaded, then walking in a run. That's been a problem. Had a chance to talk to Ben McDonald, former number 1 overall pick, of course, LSU All-American, Golden Spikes Award winner, does great work on the SEC Network. Ben was on the call for all 3 games between LSU and Arkansas. And I asked him, we know the walks are a problem with a lot of guys in the bullpen, but I asked him to dig deeper, like, why? Like, what is causing this issue from these very talented pitchers? Why are they issuing so many walks?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. I think, one, as you know, the strike zone has shrunk in the college game, right? It's clearly a lot smaller than high school ball. You see these guys come out of high school and they're just dominating the game, but they're getting some balls, you know, and the hitters chase balls that they don't chase in college. It's just like the elevation of going from college to the big leagues. Big league hitters don't chase those kind of balls. You know, they just don't do it. Liam Doyle, who's over at Tennessee, who leads the nation in strikeouts right now, I honestly, as good as he is and as high a pick as he is, I'm not projecting him as a starting pitcher at the professional level. I don't think he throws enough strikes in the zone to have that kind of success in pro ball. I think he's more of a reliever right now. Now, he could change my mind if he learns to get the ball over the plate a little bit more, but right now I see him as a reliever, you know. When I look at some guys, you know, LSU has got the guy on Friday nights. It's unbelievable. Cade Anderson, you know, he is a strike thrower. He projects to me as that. But I do think The strike zone is smaller. As you know, the umpires are getting graded now. They don't want to look like idiots out there, so they shrunk their strike zone down a little bit less than what. And we've always had, you've always gotten a ball off the outside corner, a ball off the inside corner. That's kind of been the college game because of the many runs that get scored in the college game over the years. Umpires have always had a typical collegiate strike zone where it's a little bit bigger, but you don't see it that much bigger than say AA ball. I think it's equivalent to A or AA ball right now. It's just not a big strike zone. So that leads to also hitters being better. Strike zone is smaller. Kids don't swing at the ball in college like they did in high school. And all those things combined, you get some walks added to you, when you're a freshman coming in to a school like LSU or really anywhere in the SEC.
It's a really logical point of view. And it took nearly a 2-minute answer, but I wanted to play it in its entirety from Ben because it does make a lot of sense. And the reason is I want you to think about Cade Anderson from a year ago to Cade Anderson now. That's the benefit of mound time, of experience. When we say that, what does it mean? It means that learning that when you're in high school and you throw 95 and you miss off the plate by 6 inches, a high school hitter there's a better chance it's going to swing at it because they're overmatched. A college hitter is going to have a much better eye. You bounce a breaking ball. High school hitter might swing over the top of it. College hitter, better eye, more experience, can take that pitch, bounce it in the dirt. It's a ball. I think that's some of the learning how to pitch at this level that, for example, Cade Anderson learned, and that these guys tend to learn as they grow up and get more experienced. How to miss, when to miss, where to miss is important because what you don't want to ever do is miss and catch too much of the middle of the plate to where you catch too much of a bat, right? If you're going to miss, you want to miss a little bit off the plate, a little bit outside, a little bit high. All that's known in your scouting report and fine-tuning your command, understanding that it's just harder to get good college hitters to chase. But we have seen a lot of these pitchers improve. How about Chase Shores? I mean, it's certainly worth mentioning over the last 2 weeks, Chase Shores has been pretty good for you. He's thrown in the last 2 weeks, A&M and Arkansas, 6 2/3, 3 runs on 5 hits, 6 strikeouts, and just 1 walk. So that's a guy who we know has incredible stuff. I mean, he's dotting 100 and has a wipeout slider. He's just got to be able to command it, like we're just talking about. And if he starts commanding those pitches, yes, he can become a real weapon for LSU. And then back to the point Luch made, if you're looking at the offense over the course of this weekend, LSU has been just much better at home offensively. Over the 3 games against Arkansas, LSU scored 22 runs on 30 hits. That'll play. And the leadoff man reached 12 of 26 times in 3 games. That's almost 50% of the time you were getting the leadoff man on. Tigers hit 7 home runs over the weekend as well in 3 games. It's another reason why the path to Omaha has to go to the box. LSU is a better team at home. The record shows it. The statistics shows it. Everything shows it. So go win 2 games this weekend in Columbia, South Carolina, so you can make sure that your path to Omaha runs through Alex Box Stadium. Okay, no midweek game this week for LSU. That's done. So they'll just get ready for South Carolina this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, and then it's off to Hoover for the SEC tournament, hopefully with a national seed already locked up. You ever look at your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Hat tip to former LSU Tiger John Emery. In case if you missed this story, John Emery has announced where he will play his final year of college football. As a matter of fact, it was Pete Nakos from On 3, who first reported it. But John Emery is committed to Texas San Antonio. So he'll play at UTSA. And one of the interesting ties there is that the running backs coach at UTSA is Tommy Robinson. The same Tommy Robinson was the LSU running backs coach in 2019 when he recruited John Emery. So John Emery began his college career at LSU in 2019 with Tommy Robinson as his running backs coach. He will finish his college career in 2025 at UTSA with Tommy Robinson as LSU's running backs coach. Emery is one of those guys we've talked about plenty here, and he's a guy that will always have my respect and admiration. He was a 5-star, the number 12 overall prospect in the country when he signed with LSU back in 2019. And scored 4 touchdowns as a true freshman on the national championship team. And then the problem started. 20 was the COVID year. 21, he was suspended academically. He played in 22 and had a nice season, came back in 23 and tore his ACL against Florida. Rehabbed it, came back in 2024, tore his ACL in practice after the first game. So John Emery's coming back for a 7th collegiate season, and I hope he stays healthy and has a great year there at UTSA. Again, it's a guy who at any point could have walked away, but has continued to persevere, continued to plow away at college, got his degree last May. So hat tip to John Emery for the work ethic, the perseverance, and good luck in your next stop at UTSA. And one more thing before we get out of here for the day. LSU did announce its LSU Sports Hall of Fame electees for the 2025 class. And there's some pretty familiar names on this list. A couple of basketball stars. John Brady, of course, brought LSU to the men's Final Four in 2006. He has been elected to the LSU Athletics Hall of Fame. Ronald Dupree, recently hired by LSU as the new general manager of the men's basketball program. Ronald Dupree is one of the all-time leaders in so many statistical categories. Helped lead LSU to the 2000 SEC regular season championship, the Sweet 16. And he's one of only 16 players in LSU history to score 1,000 points, record 200 assists, and 100 steals. And he is in the top 10 in the country in points, rebounds, games played, and double-figure games. So congrats to Ronald Dupree on his election as well. The others, Cornelia Gayden from the women's basketball program, Tamika Johnson from the women's basketball program, of course, who is the point guard out of New Orleans, who helped lead LSU to its first ever women's Final Four back in 2003. And the two others, J. Perry Cole, who is the men's golf head coach. It's a nod, an historical nod there with Cole. He was the men's golf coach from 1933 to 1943. His entire career spanned from 1919 to 1960, incredibly. And he won NCAA championships in 1940 and 1942 as the men's basketball coach. And then finally, Reagan Corville, the outstanding LSU gymnast, Reagan Corville, of this era. And it's something we're going to get used to seeing because in this era, where it has been the most decorated under Jay Clark, it has been the most decorated era in women's in LSU gymnastics. And so a lot of these incredible gymnasts are going to start to find their way into halls of fame, both at LSU and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, et cetera. April Burkhalter was elected to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. She'll be inducted this summer. Well, Corville was a 23-time All-American during her time at LSU. She was the NCAA vault champion in 2013 and 2014. She was the SEC all-around champion in 2013 and 2015, the beam champion in 2013, the SEC Gymnast of the Year in 2013. You get it. She was one of the all-time greats in this LSU gymnastics program. So congrats to Reagan Corville as well for being elected to the LSU Athletics Hall of Fame. Okay, y'all, that's going to do it for us here on today's episode of Locked On LSU. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Now, for your second listen, how about you check out Locked On NFL Draft? Of course, you can find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, speaking of podcasts, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.